All right, welcome everyone. Going to give folks a few moments to join, and then we will start with a quick intro and then move on over to today's CEU course on natural stone versus man-made materials. It's going to be presented by Austin from Outdoor Living Supply today, and we've also got Jeff Anderson on, who's going to do a brief presentation at the end of today's CEU to tell you guys about an awesome new product. All right, looks like we've got a good amount of folks joining, so Austin, I'm going to go ahead and take over screen share momentarily, give everyone some info on what to expect after the webinar and share a little briefly about Acelab. So Acelab is helping out with hosting today's event. We provide free tools and resources for architects, designers, and engineers. So head on over to acelabusa.com after today's webinar. You can check out a bunch of the free resources we have here. You can use the homepage to sign up for new upcoming webinars. Explore a bunch of searchable product categories. And if you ever need support, we've got this live chat down here. It's staffed by real people, not bots. So you can reach out to this anytime if you want some guidance on how to use our platform. Today, just want to show you guys how to find Outdoor Living Supplies page on Acelab. So if you have some questions after today's event, you want to learn some more about the products, this is a great place to head. So you can use the search bar in the top, just type in the name of any brand or company. Make sure you're selected on brands here and head over to their page on Acelab. From here, you can get in touch with Austin directly by clicking this button, and you can explore some more about the company, about their products, save these to your projects, and open up the product pages to view downloads and resources and learn a little bit more. So this is a great place to come after today's webinar if you're looking to explore some more and get some more resources for your projects. If you do get in touch with Austin, you will get a conversation made on Acelab. So we'll give you the option during today's webinar if you're interested in connecting to learn some more. Acelab's team will go ahead and create that connection for you. You can get to your conversations by just clicking this little icon here next to your projects. Head on over to your conversations and you'll have a record of all of your communication. It's a really great way to save your communication with your product research, kind of keep everything managed in one place. You'll also get an email anytime there's a new message. You can respond directly to those emails so you don't have to use the platform to communicate. All right, last thing I want to show everyone is just a preview of some newer features that we have. So this is not publicly accessible, but it is available if you're interested in early access. We can get you set up with a beta account. This is our new schedules feature. It's really an enhanced way to save product information for your projects. You can pull in Acelab data, save your rep information here, and then you can also create custom data. So if you want to give it, custom statuses, tag things by different assemblies, and add your own notes so that you can kind of keep your research with your team all accessible in one place. This is a really, really great tool to be able to build out your digital firm library. Acelab's team is here to help you support in setting this up. So we'll take your old project files, we'll kind of dig through them, we'll help you get all of the products that you use frequently saved into this schedule so that you can use it moving forward and really easily copy it over to your projects. So if you're interested in learning some more about this, I will send over a link to one of my colleagues' emails in the chat momentarily. You can reach out to them directly to schedule some time to walk through it a little more closely. Last thing I wanted to touch on today is the AIA credit process, or the CEU credit process, is a little bit different for today's course than our typical. So I'm going to send over a link to the CEU events website, as well as a code for this specific course. All you have to do to receive your credit for today is just head to this link, click this button on the top, received an event code. If you go ahead and click that and you enter the code that I'm going to send, which I believe is, 8B2V. I'll just do this real quick and then click continue. That'll give you the option to let the course presenters know that you attended, and then the certificates and CEUs will be processed by the Outdoor Living Supply team. So just stay tuned for the chat for that link, and please complete that at some point today so that you can get your credits for today's event. All right, other than that, just want to encourage folks to please submit questions to the Q&A throughout today's presentation. We might have some time to get to those live, and if we don't get to your question live, we'll have a record of it and you can be followed up with after today's event. All right, that's it for me. Austin and Jeff, thank you so much for joining today. Austin, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away for today's CEU.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you to everyone for attending today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn a little bit about Natural Stone and the Natural Stone Institute, and really what they're about and what they share. And then we'll touch a little bit on the end about one of the unique product offerings that Outdoor Living Supply has that Jeff from Rochester Concrete Products will talk about with us today. So just to see everything that we talk about today is a brief overview of the topic, and it will go in depth. It will talk, obviously, in this case, a lot about exterior applications versus a natural stone and a man-made material. And we'll dive right into that right now. So just my basic contact info. There's that code that Bo mentioned there at the bottom. This slide will be also at the end of the presentation, but all of this info is also readily available for you on Acelab's page. So one of the things that anyone that joins the Natural Stone Institute to become a certified speaker is we have to uphold their vision and their mottos for the Natural Stone Institute. And a couple of things that I have to make sure that I uphold for them is to provide accurate and ongoing education about their values, benefits, and best practices of using natural stone as a building material for architects, designers, and other professionals in the construction industry. Something I have to go through in order to be certified through the Natural Stone Institute. I have to complete training, followed by an oath that outline my responsibilities and just promises to uphold their educational standards that I will share with you today. Lots of continuing education info and accreditations are associated with the Natural Stone Institute, and lots of other courses, as well as many institutions are backed by the Natural Stone Institute. To give you a brief description and overview of natural stone, it really has been the premier building material of choice throughout history, thanks to its durability, its timeless aesthetic, and really just its inherent beauty and versatility. That's what's made it so unique and so many wonderful buildings and monuments that we'll touch on later. A lot of man-made materials really aim to replicate natural stone and its appearance and its desirability. This course is what's going to outlay natural stone's versatility, different performance characteristics, green building considerations are something we're going to touch on as well, as that's a very important topic now in today's world. We're going to talk about that versus man-made materials and high and low embodied energy. We'll talk about different key points that will help prepare knowledge for different design concepts, applications, and really just how to educate the consumer, as that's our goal as whether architects or designers or reps out in the field. We're looking to educate the consumer as best and efficiently as we can to get them that end result for their project. And something they like to say is that styles change from season to season, but Mother Nature creates unique designs in natural stone that are historically innovative and always on trend. So just to go a little bit more in depth, these are the 4 key points of learning objectives that we'll be discussing today. We'll define and explain attributes to understand what can affect the performance of both natural stone and man-made materials, in this case, in exterior applications. We'll compare and contrast different installation capabilities of both natural stone and man-made materials. We'll discuss those common green building considerations for both natural stone and man-made and different embodied energy, different types of ingredients and other impacts that can go into that, as well as discussing innovative design trends that can be satisfied using natural stone through things such as biophilic design, unique complex geometries, textures, really just to get that end goal of that aesthetic look that natural stone offers. So there'll be lots of photos and pictures of natural stone throughout the presentation today, attributing to the different concepts and topics we'll discuss. And so feel free, there might be pauses of just looking at some photos and showing the different applications that it's really been used and applied in all around the world. So to go to the very basics of natural stone kind of what makes it inherently unique. There are two types of basics when it comes to natural stone principles. You have your calcareous stones, which are made up of your calcium carbonate. Examples of those are your marbles, your limestones, and your travertines. Your siliceous stones are made up of your silicates. These are your granites, quartzites, slates, bluestones, and your sandstones. When you talk about sedimentary formation, if you think back to geology way back in the day in school, that's that very simple basics of layer upon layer of many, many years that gives that stone its unique inherent layered look. A lot of those you see in things like limestone. That's what inherently gives it that unique shell, fossil incorporation, all those different compositions over time is how these stones have formed. In this case, the sedimentary way. You have metamorphic formation. That's just simply that heating and cooling and pressurized over time of the stone to make it a harder, more dense grade stone generally. That's what gives you things such as your quartzites, your granites, and your different slate stones. Similar to that of metamorphic formation, you have igneous formation, your granites and your basalts, and a unique kind of rule of thumb I like to live by. Generally, the darker the stone, the harder the stone is because of the calcium carbonate deposits in it. So I always tell people, even if it's a limestone, but it's a darker grade limestone, it's going to have a denser grade. It's going to be on the harder side of the Mohs scale of hardness, all due to the fact of its darker appearance and that calcium carbonate. So just a cool, unique rule of thumb. There's always exceptions to this, but generally, even a darker quartzite is a harder grade quartzite than, say, a silver or a white type of quartzite. So, fun little fact for the day. We're going to talk about understanding different performance attributes with natural stone and man-made materials. When you talk about versatility, as briefly mentioned, natural stone is meant to be outside in its element. That's why you see a lot of it throughout pool coping, decking, high traffic walkways, anything that's out in its natural element, it holds up and it tests very well. And so that's why we inherently like to install it around things that will test its durability, is because it's already proven the test of time to do just fine. And that's what makes it inherently beautiful when installed in this case, exterior applications. Now, depending on where you live and what market you are in, I know in my market, kind of in the Northwest, this is a big topic when you talk about freeze thaw. That's something that really makes a stone or a man-made material's ability to withstand it quite apparent after a few years of being able to have it tested. When you talk about using both a natural stone or a man-made, both can be susceptible to a freeze thaw cycle. It's appropriate to know what stone to use for which application. Are you doing a vertical application, a horizontal application? In this case, is it a limestone that's maybe a West Texas limestone or a chalkier limestone that hasn't gone through as much of a freeze thaw cycle and is more likely to be susceptible to it? Or is it a harder grade Indiana limestone that is more likely to just do fine through proper maintenance and care? Both can have susceptibility to freeze thaw degrading over time. It's just making sure that we understand that natural stones are susceptible as man-made, but overall, a natural stone will perform much better in a freeze thaw climate, especially when installed in the climate that it is quarried from and manufactured from. UV resistance is another big thing that natural stone inherently has worked into it. It just has a generalized reflectance naturally with it and doesn't necessarily have any fading or any issues of degrading over time like a manufactured product would. In this case, a quartz bench can have one side fade over time, depending on what sun hits it, if it's in the shade on one side. Natural stone will not have that issue. It will have the same makeup throughout the entire product and will look the same no matter what. So that's a benefit of natural stone. And making sure it looks pretty, it looks the way it's installed, and ultimately gives that customer their end product for many, many years to come. Solar reflectance, very similar. We talk about the urban heat island effect. That's something that natural stone makes naturally does, is reducing that in our environments, which is always great, especially in larger urban cities. And so that's what pushes to have these beautiful big monuments or these big high rises, to use that lighter color stone that will reflect, maybe even have a cooling side to it. That's what really pushes natural stone to reduce that and keep our cities cooler. Absorption, that's one big part of stone that it is super, super good on. It doesn't have really, for the most part, depending on what stone you spec, its porosity is so minimal and is so dense that water cannot necessarily get into that stone to have that freeze thaw cycle to cause it to degrade. Whereas a lot more man-made materials that are precast or just necessarily aren't as dense of a porous texture on top, it's a lot harder to prevent that, even with sealants, to keep that water from getting in, ultimately causing flaking and chipping over time. Natural stone inherently is built in to not be very porous. And so that's a huge plus when we talked about pool decking, outdoor walkways, on a side of a home as a veneer application to have that water to run off. That's a super huge pro when it comes to using natural stone in exterior uses. Slip resistance is another thing, natural stone, the texture of it, unless you surface it differently, is really inherently built into it and doesn't have any slip in it, which is a huge plus. That's why you'll see a lot of paving applications of natural stone in malls and walkways to really reduce any issues of, even if there is water on it, it will still stay textured and will still have plenty of no issues of liability coming your way, which is something none of us want. So that's a huge plus about natural stone, is it's naturally slip resistant. So just to kind of summarize that first attribute, everything that's mentioned should always be taken into consideration. There's lots of different applications for many different uses that can really change how the stone is affected and whether or not it's the most suitable for that application. But overall, everything that is mentioned with natural stone in that exterior use is inherently good and very beneficial for the projects that you will be using. Okay, to compare and contrast some different performance attributes for natural stone and man-made materials, as shown in this photo, natural stone is inherently beautiful in any climate, whether it's a snowy climate, whether it's a hot climate. It looks great, it performs very well, and ultimately will blend in as the goal to its surrounding environment. So the cladding pros and cons, this kind of ties into a little bit about what sort of application it's being installed in, whether it's a horizontal or a vertical in this case. Different types of stones have different type of susceptibilities and things to take into consideration. Really, the pro of natural stone is quite long. It's versatile. It can be shaped. It can be textured into a cohesive aesthetic to really any need that is being desired by the customer. In this case, granite is extremely durable in extreme weather. Most stones have a very long lifespan. So when we talk about life cycle cost of these products, they may be slightly higher on the upfront of things, but when they want that long lifespan, there's really nothing that can compare or beat to using natural stone. It's lasted a very, very long time, a lot longer than any of us have been around, and it will last for forever if taken care of on any exterior application it's used in. It can be carved, as mentioned. The technology that we'll touch on to be able to shape and inherently make this stone unique and almost not even appear as a stone is super, super available in our country now, which is super neat. Lighter colors, as mentioned, have that higher solar reflectance index and then low embodied energy for these natural stones that we'll touch on a little more. Just as any product, there's also pros and cons to everything. In this case, natural stone is no enemy to that. It can be porous depending on how it's installed. It can be susceptible to things such as acid rain. So in a vertical application, it might be okay, but in a horizontal application, you could have some issues with that. So just making sure you take all those things into consideration when speccing and installing these different types of products. And then really the biggest one that people think about is the installation cost being a bit more than that of man-made materials, which is true in a lot of cases, but the gap has closed significantly as the technology has increased to carve and really just make it an easier process to get this natural stone to look the way we want, just with the technology we have. So very, very cool. Some more cladding pros and cons, in this case of man-made, whether it's porcelain, concrete, GFRC panels, metal or terracotta. The pro is concrete is extremely durable. That's why we use it. It's installed in so many different ways all around us, and that's because it does very, very well. So concrete works great in many different applications, and porcelain in this case is extremely UV stable. So to have low reflectance, minimal fading, those are huge benefits of these types of man-made materials. So both natural stone and man-made have their uses and have their pros and cons. The natural stone will push the natural stone pros because they're a little biased on that sense, but both can be used in many different ways. Some more cladding pros and cons for concrete. Some of the cons are that precast is expensive, and we've kind of seen that post-COVID with things that the materials and labor to get it to its final state has significantly gone up. Natural stone has really not changed. Its process has stayed the same, if not become more efficient to getting it to its final state, making it a lot more of a reasonable option for speccing in different projects. The service life that we talk about for man-made materials will just not measure up to natural stone. It can be manufactured and taken care of and sealed and made to last a very long time, but natural stone inherently will just outlast as it's been built by the earth for many, many thousands of years. Depending on your preference of how it looks, a lot of man-made materials can have kind of that fake look. That's really just up to your preference of what style you're really trying to obtain, but that can be a con for just different types of cultured stones or things that you may be speccing for a product, instead of a natural stone. And then when we talk about green building standards and high embodied energy, that's really the focus of what makes natural stone stand out, from the competition, is it has such a low embodied energy to get it to its final state compared to that of most man-made materials. That's where it shines, and we'll discuss that a little bit later on. This is super neat. All of this is in Chicago. So if you're in the Chicago area or you've been to this area, this entire building that you see here along the river was natural stone. And instead of having to tear it down, every piece of it was repurposed, refinished, and restored to its original state, which with a man-made material would be extremely difficult, if not impossible to do. And so when we talk about that life cycle costs, we talk about that low embodied energy of natural stone. This really exemplifies and highlights it to be able to take that stone, repurpose it, sand it down to its existing layer that had the same look it did in this case in 1923, when it was built, to bring back its beauty and its shine, through keeping it and preserving it. So just a really neat, in this case, cladding restoration in Chicago. Just another close-up of here. This is a limestone on the side of a building. Everything here was refinished on the face of it to take off the lettering and bring back that inherent same color of the stone, to change it. So didn't have to tear it out, didn't have to really do any other work other than just taking off that fine top layer of that stone and keeping it on the existing building. Natural stone, this is kind of a pro and con or side by side of this case, a man-made brick versus a granite veneer on top, just showing the different looks, the contrast that either one can have, uh, really just outlaying the uses for natural stone is really endless. And in this case, covering up an existing wall with a granite veneer, which looks very, very cool. So paving pros and cons, that's really where I think natural stone highlights its versatility and its durability is in paving applications. When you talk about the pros, very given, it's extremely durable. So when you put it in a high traffic area, whether it's a staired walkway, that's where it shines and will last forever. And installed properly should be there for a very, very long time. That slip resistant for most surface finishes, as I mentioned, makes it very appealing to have installed in high traffic areas. You can do different edgings and patterns. There's many, many different color options that are a lot of them local, as in this case in the States, that you don't have to go overseas to get, that are becoming more readily available, which is a neat way to support sourcing locally in the United States. A lot of stones perform well in that freeze thaw as mentioned. Some of them maybe not as good as others, but overall they perform very well. So in that case, being installed outside is perfect for that. And in this case, some materials costs can be lower than porcelain or concrete imitations, depending on where it's quarried, whether you're sourcing locally, how abundant it is, what part of the quarry they're in, if it's a local quarry or a bit of a rural quarry. You can get that material for a fairly low cost, which is great to see and hopefully continues in that direction. And then low embodied energy for natural stone versus that of man-made materials. Some of the cons of a natural stone in a paving application can still be that installation cost is more than that of man-made materials. And then something to always consider with a natural stone is many of those products still need to have sealants applied, similar to that of paving applications that are man-made material. So it is durable. It does do very, very well in paving applications, but some of them do need to make sure they are properly taken care of to make sure that life cycle cost and that lifespan is extended for as long as possible, depending on the application it's installed in. Some pros of concrete or man-made materials or clay brick. The replacement and maintenance costs for these can be extremely low. When I think about pulling one paver out to fix it, a lot simpler than maybe ripping out a flagstone patio that's mortared in, just a lot simpler. So that can be a huge pro when in this case speccing a paver for a walkway or a different application that may need to be repaired later on. Some of the pros as well, there's limited surface texture options for concrete, which can make it at a lower cost. And then porcelain, as mentioned on a few slides ago, is also very UV stable. So lots of different pros and different options for man-made materials. Some of the cons that are associated with a paving application for man-made is that they can topically apply slip-resistant methods. Older concrete technology does tend to fade and lose that color over time. Improved concrete technology can be more expensive than the material it's imitating in some cases. Porcelain has a very minimal absorption rate, so this would be the only time I could see this being a negative thing. So installing that on a horizontal application, especially in a high traffic walkway, would likely not be ideal for water pooling and things like that and slipping. So that would be one negative thing for porcelain on that application. Clay-based products can be costly to install because of their large variation in dimensional tolerances. And then some clay products do have that very high absorption rate, which can cause them to break down and degrade a lot quicker than that of a natural stone. And then ultimately, the high embodied energy, as mentioned, getting that product to its final state versus that of natural stone. So when we talk about refinish, repaired, and restored, that's what natural stone is and should always be. If it's dirty, it can be cleaned as shown here and shown the new face right underneath it without taking any of its integrity or any type of that composition into play. It's just taking off that very, very fine layer and restoring it as it was when installed. A little bit of a close-up here showing how it can be repaired and refinished and restored really endlessly in any application. Just showing, I like to look, if you compare these two photos of a natural stone paving walkway versus that of a um, natural or a man-made paver walkway, you can see on the left side, it started to kind of degrade a little bit, kind of has a little bit of a weathered look. If that's the look you're going for, then great, but it just shows that that material over time will start to break down as it is a man-made material. Whereas the natural stone, flagstone walkway, I can put my money on that one. I think that one's going to look that way for a very, very long time. So just showing the different uses of either in this application and how natural stone can do just that of a paver walkway. So green building considerations, that's going to tie into that high and low embodied energy, as I've mentioned, and dive into that a little bit more. But when we talk about proven longevity and durability, these photos speak for themselves. Natural stone has been around and been used and has tested times for forever and will continue even after we're gone. And a lot of countries still use stone and build buildings with stone quite exclusively. And that's what's really made it a focal point, I think, for the Natural Stone Institute to promote and show how readily available it is to be used in these different exterior applications that we've been talking about. That life cycle cost, when we talk about green building considerations, that's what really makes it a proponent for green building, is not having to tear it out, replace it, unless it's just being reused for something else. But it can be there for as long as we'd like it to be. And that really brings that green building consideration into play. There's a lot of minimal things that go into keeping natural stone to look great. It doesn't really require much cleaning or chemicals to maintain. I always tell people soapy water and you're good to go. There's also other stones that still need to have sealant supplied, but for the most part, super minimal cleaning and maintenance involved. And then again, natural stone can be refinished, repaired, and restored endlessly. So we talk about being endlessly recyclable for natural stone. All of these were panels that are pulled off of a building. So it doesn't get up in a landfill. It gets repurposed into flagstone, crushed into aggregate, you name it, whatever it could be. It could be cut into tile for a paving application. All of the things in natural stone should be used endlessly. And so that's one thing that really pushes the green building with a lot of man-made materials cannot match, is a lot of them cannot be reused once the building is torn down or repurposed. They generally end up in a landfill. Take back programs are something that really pushes natural stone to continue its endless cycle of reusability. So that's what really makes it great for a proponent of this. And then aggregate, as I mentioned, it can be turned into if there's no other option for it. So quarry reclamation is probably the biggest topic that comes into play when we see how the stone is quarried, kind of what it does to the face of the earth and kind of leaves a scar. This is something that every quarry has to do once either they move on from the quarry closes, they move on to another section of the quarry. Every area of it has to be repurposed and left better than the way they found it. How they do that is kind of up to the quarry and the location that they're in. This photo here, you can see this quarry was turned into a water park. Um, Different quarries are turned into obviously recreational areas and things of that nature, but they can't leave that open scar on the land as is after they leave. They have to reclaim it and they have to adhere by a very strict guideline list to make sure that that quarry meets those standards. We talk about other green building considerations with natural stone. Red list free is a big proponent that the natural stone is very proud to have them on. Natural stone, very simply, when we talk about the ingredients of it, is natural stone. There's nothing that goes into it to make it, to mold it, to shape it. All that goes into the fabrication of it is either cutting or splitting, and really just transportation to that of its final destination. When we look at concrete, engineered quartz, porcelain, lots of different chemicals go into that to make it into its final state versus that of natural stone. More green building considerations for natural stone. It exists as a usable material within the earth. They can be recycled endlessly, as mentioned. And then man-made materials just have that higher embodied energy than that of natural stone that I will show you here on these next couple slides. So the manufacturing impact for natural stone is pretty simply laid out. You have it quarried, it's transported to the producer, cut into slabs, finished, and really that's it. The biggest impact from this is really transportation with natural stone. It's heavy. It's a lot of the times you can't fit as much of it on a truck depending on what type of material you're shipping. So that's really its biggest natural impact. And that's why we always push to source locally, is that really reduces that when maybe not shipping from overseas or having it over on a container kind of negates really its proponent for that green building consideration. As long as we source locally as best as we can, that can really help make natural stone shine in that case for the green building and that red list free that it's on. Manufacturing impacts for porcelain just shows there's a lot of other added steps that go into making it into its final state. A lot of these steps as well can be added after this process too. So just lots of different things to consider. Getting it into its final state versus that of natural stone is quite a bit more extensive. Concrete as well, a few more added steps that go into that. Just kind of pushing that natural stone really does have, in the scheme of things, a pretty minimal impact on the environment versus that of some man-made materials. Okay, there's some unique photos that we'll show here of projects, different innovative design trends of natural stone, and just cool photos that we'll show you here. So versatility, when we talk about the technology I mentioned in the beginning, being able to cut and shape and quarry this stone is more readily available and simple than it's ever been. It's still a big process, but a lot of the stuff done with natural stone doesn't even need to be run by people. It's computerized, it's cut and shaped by giant machines and computers in these warehouses to cut it and fabricate it to its final state, which is super, super neat. If you've ever toured a quarry, you've probably seen that. The saws they use to cut it, very, very cool. So the design trends are only going to increase and become more readily available as technology improves. We talk about more innovative design trends, in this case, biophilic design. This is in City Creek down in Salt Lake City. They incorporated a locally sourced stone not far from where the city center is located, and they put all the paving application in, boulders, flagstone, and really incorporated, when we talk about the natural scape of the environment, into their project, which ultimately got it a 2013 Pinnacle Award. So very, very cool. That's something the Natural Science Institute loves to see and loves to be an advocate for, is incorporating natural stone in its local environment. In this case, this is other biophilic designs for man-made materials. So for those of you that have been to the Puget Sound area, this is all incorporated through tile and concrete to really tie in to the Pacific Northwest and what it is and what its nature is like. So both man-made and natural stone can achieve that same end goal of that biophilic design. Cultural connections, that's a huge thing that we love to see natural stone used in. In this case, a Texas limestone that, if you've been in Texas or live in Texas, is very abundant and readily available, and they love to incorporate it into their projects. And that's what we love to see, is in the area it's quarried, installed in its local environment. You know you're in Texas when you see an abundance of Texas limestone and vice versa for different areas. And that's what the Natural Stone Institute really wants to be an advocate for. Other innovative design trends. All of this is in Kansas, which is cool. It's all a brick mural. I believe they installed this in panels piece by piece, but they carved it intricately into the brick to show the history and the culture of that area, and just showing that it doesn't have to be a natural stone. In this case, it can be a man-made brick, and it looks very cool. This is a very neat memorial tribute to Princess Diana and showcasing the different sounds and remembrance of her. And this is in England. All of this is natural stone, cut and shaved and shaped in a unique way to have different sounds as the water is continuously flowing throughout this memorial. So when we talk about testing the times for durability, this is all water running through this natural stone 24/7 and really showing its durability in this case and its remembrance for that really neat tribute. And this is just a unique aerial shot of what that memorial looks like. Natural stone for panels is also super widely used. All of these panels, this is in Italy, are freestanding. They're not mortared, they're not grouted. They're all interconnected through joints and really supporting one another, which is a little scary if you were standing under it, but they made mock-ups and tests of it and it won't go anywhere. So just showing even through a thin stone application or a veneer, you can really use a lot of unique design trends for natural stone and monuments and whatever kind of application you use. It's quite endless. Concrete in this case, super unique design and technology to be able to incorporate this. This has been a debate for a long time of what this is and what its purpose is, but I'm sure the architect had its goal in mind and loves the outcome, and you can stare at this for as long as you'd like, but just showing it's got all this unique technology that both man-made materials can be made to mimic, and as natural stone progresses, can also mimic the same outcome. Cutting and shaping and water jetting to be able to have stone look like this on this photo, being able to have corners for a veneer on a home at a 90-degree angle is super innovative when you talk about just how much more complex it would be to do any of these by hand. And really the technology we have has enabled us to do that with natural stone. This is down in Vegas. The geometries of the red rock in that area, being able to incorporate those shapes and sizes in a city that has not a lot to its local name. So being able to incorporate that in this architecture is also a very unique thing you can do with natural stone. Panels you can see here for other interesting complex geometries, really just highlighting the innovative design trends that we have today and how endless they are. And as technology improves, it will only continue up. And so just to finish off today's presentation, this is the Natural Stone's fun little quote they like to throw in at the end, is that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. So natural stone loves to be natural stone and look in a beautiful way and be inherently carved. And whether it's a man-made material or a natural stone, either of them can achieve that inherently beautiful aesthetic. The Natural Stone Institute will say natural stone does it better. But really the course for today was just to highlight some of the benefits of both in this exterior application. Lots of different courses offered through the Natural Stone Institute that I can share with you. There's really a long list of many different areas. And so if you would like to learn more or have any more questions about different courses I can offer, we'll be happy to answer those for you. Okay, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. This was the presentation side for the Natural Stone Institute. I believe Jeff now will come on and share for the next 15 minutes or so about his unique product and really what we have to offer from the company I work with at Outdoor Living Supply.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Austin. Quick
Yeah,
reminder for all the folks who are looking to get a CEU, we do have the link to record your attendance in the chat, so just be sure to do that. All right, Jeff, whenever you're ready, you can feel free to take it away.
Hey, thanks, guys. Great job, Austin.
thank
I
you.
will see if I can share my screen.
Austin, you might need to end your screen share
Should I
too.
end it? Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet, no. I think if you click the green arrow and then you just have to click the share button after you select the screen. Right.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you letting me piggyback on the end. It's a great presentation, Austin. Y'all want to hang on for a little bit to see the rest of this. Y'all haven't seen this before in the United States. My name is Jeff Anderson. I am with Rochester Concrete Products. We are the manufacturer of this new product to the U.S. called Geoceramica, and we are a supplier for Outdoor Living Supply. Geoceramica, if you can see on my screen, is a concrete paver with a porcelain paver fused to the top of it. It has never before been made in the U.S. until now. It has been in Europe for about the last 10 years. Unfortunately, Europe is always about 10 years ahead of us on some of these industry trends. But you get the best of both worlds. You know, Austin talked about porcelain and its beauty and durability of porcelain. People love the beauty and durability of porcelain because it's fade resistant, it's scratch resistant, it's slip resistant, stain resistant, easy to clean. The only problem is you need to put it on a concrete slab for it to look great, right? Otherwise you have movement. So we have taken that and fused it to a concrete paver so that you get the beauty and durability of porcelain with the ease of installation of a concrete paver. So as you see here, this is the way it looks like from our plant. The bottom part of this is called the stable corn, and then there's an aquaforming binding agent that bonds the porcelain to the concrete. And it also has a 3mm auto spacer bar like you would see on a regular concrete paver. So you would install this just like you would a concrete paver. And we haven't before been able to say what type of porcelain was on the top of our Geoceramica until now. They were working out some trademark things and such, but it is a dial tile product. And we have it in 4 colors: pearl, sable, taupe, and smoke. And it is a 24 by 24, which the actual size is about 23 5/8 by 23 5/8, but with the spacer bar on the sides, right at 24 by 24. So that aquaformer binding agent I was talking about, you know, the marketing folks don't want us to say the word glue, right? You don't want to say the word glue because everybody conjures up visions of Elmer's glue back in elementary school. It's a little bit better than Elmer's glue. It's called an aquaformer binding agent. And when this product is made, it's actually made upside down, like you can see in this picture. So it's actually spread onto the back of the porcelain, and then it's rolled so that it fills in all the gaps in the irregular surfaces. And then the concrete portion of the paver is put on top of it in the mold and then pressed down completely. It's actually made upside down and will go to the kiln together where it's cured. So that aquaformer binding agent actually gets stronger over time because it's activated by moisture. And so we see the bottom of this. This is actually a picture from the Europe guys. The stable corn of the bottom part of this is very porous. So it enables water to be flushed through the paver base and away from the product. Just some pictures of job sites, commercial, patio, outdoor kitchens, rooftop pedestals, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, and pool decks. So testing. So, you know, this is a new product for the US. It's not really a concrete paver. It's not really a porcelain tile. It's both. So we've got a lot of testing we are going through right now. Most of it has come back. We do have wind lift and slip resistant and SRI value. We are finishing up with flexural and compressive. We're going to put this together in a package so that you'll have all of the testing criteria that you need specifically for a commercial job. That is all coming probably within the next week or so. We talked about SRI value. You know, the lighter colors will be a 5 to 20% less heat absorption than that of concrete. The mid-range colors will be slightly higher than that of concrete. And then the darker color will be right at standard concrete. You know, slip resistance, Austin talked a little bit about this. It's actually ASTM 1864, which is the slipperiness of a surface, or that is to say, the walking ability of a surface. And according to ASTM 1864, it's actually anything greater than 0.42, which is the coefficient they give to it. Anything greater than 0.42 means it's a walkable surface without the possibility of slipping. And Geoceramica meets this criteria for exterior applications and pool decks. So I get this question all the time. Is this a brand new product? Is this new technology? Well, it's been in Europe for about the last 10 years. There are about 75 million square feet already installed. It's protected by 6 patents, and it's the 2017 and 18 Red Knot Design Award winner for new products. So it's been around a while, just not in the US until now. Kind of one of the big jobs that's going on right now, if anybody's been to Amsterdam, I have not been. They are currently installing their central railway station in Amsterdam. And I understand this is a massive place. I've never been there. The architect's ZJ Amsterdam. They've laid about 230,000 square feet of Geoceramica to date. And I understand there are phase 2 and 3 coming. And I understand the total to be closer to 1 million square feet by the time it's completed. This is a hotel in the Netherlands, Geoceramica. So the joining between the Geoceramica pieces is actually filled in with polymeric sand, just like a concrete paver. The McDonald's in the Netherlands have starting to install Geoceramica in all their outdoor spaces, probably because of its durability and its easiness to clean. That looks fantastic. This is also the outside of the Central Railway Station in Amsterdam. Lots of different design options here. So roof deck pedestals, as you saw earlier, the testing, we will have the testing complete package available in the next couple of weeks. We will have more details for rooftops as soon as the testing is completed, but will be available for rooftops. You know, I debated whether to keep this slide in this presentation. This is a 24 by 24 Geoceramica piece cut and used as steps. And I wanted to illustrate that we are working on right now step tread pieces and coping pieces that will go with Geoceramica. That is not yet in the US. It is coming, but I just wanted to show you that that type of technology is available and it is coming. Volvo dealership using Geoceramica. Again, beauty and durability of a porcelain paver installed like a concrete paver. You know, one of the questions I get a lot, so the piece that we're starting with here in the US is a 24 by 24. We are very aware that additional sizes are going to be needed for different design patterns. So we are working for that next year. We think there'll be multiple sizes available by next year. So that is also coming, but it will kick off in the US with a 24 by 24 piece. This is pretty cool. We have got great installation resources. We have already multiple projects in the US already, residential projects. We've got great YouTube videos for contractors on techniques they can use for cutting geoceramica, moving slightly off the lines for geoceramica, roller compactors being used, vacuum lifts being used, lots of great information for installing this. That is also all available. I don't have that in the presentation, but that is also all available. And it's actually also all available at our website at rochestercp.com or by contacting Austin. So we're very excited about geoceramica. We think it's going to take off and be just as big as bigger or the guys in Europe. So I appreciate you guys letting me speak.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. It looks like we do have a few minutes left. We might be able to get to 1 or 2 questions live. Austin, is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see. From Marina, can you explain spalling of slate over time and how to select slate types to eliminate this occurrence?
Yeah, let me, there's a great resource that we have for that. I'm in the Utah market is where I'm at, and there's a rep down south that would be able to help those questions for you. So if we can connect offline and kind of get connected either on an email thread or a phone call, I'd be more than happy to help answer those questions for you.
Awesome. All right, and then let's see. Could you address the issue of silica particles and worker health during mining and fabrication?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, is there a specific reference you have for that? Is there like, I'm not sure who answered or asked the question, but was there something you heard about that, or I guess an issue that came up from it? Whoever asked that question.
Let's see if I believe this was from Anthony. So Anthony, if you're still online and want to elaborate a little bit, feel free to either send it in the Q&A or raise your hand. And if we don't hear from you, we can follow up with you after today's event.
Yeah, I would assume that everything, like kind of like what quarries have to do, it's called a platinum standard that quarries have to abide by when they're, I guess, doing that reclamation that I talked about. But I would assume the question you asked falls underneath that platinum certification they have to go through. I don't know the specifics of it, but absolutely, I would say anything to do with, depending on what type of quarry it is, if it's a pit quarry or a block quarry, or maybe a quarry that has more susceptibility to those particles that you mentioned, then I would assume that would have to fall in line with that platinum certification.
Mhm. All right, great. Awesome. Well, it looks like we've just got about 2 minutes left. So just want to give everyone a quick reminder to grab any of the links from the chat that you might need before you jump off for today. And we will have a quick post-event survey as you're leaving today's webinar. If you have some time to fill that out, give us some feedback. That's super helpful for us to keep bringing you content that's relevant to you. And if you have any last minute questions, you can also drop them on that survey page as well. All right, great. Well, I just want to thank everyone so much for coming out today. We appreciate you joining us and participating in today's webinar. Thank you, Jeff and Austin, for an excellent presentation.
Thank you so much.
You guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.